Hi, I'm Ken from Emerson Solutions in Barat, and we have a great interview today with Marc, a psychologist from America. Hi Marc, welcome to Emerson.
Thank you.
Yes, right.
Thank you.
Okay, this is Marc from America. So, my first question is that, can you explain a little bit about psychology?
Yeah, and I will specifically try to connect it to social media.
Okay.
I'd like to say that generally psychology is considered by the using public or the non-specialist public as something that can maybe do more than it really can. I've still in these times experienced, after living on 3 continents, that people ask me as a psychologist if I can read people's minds, and I can't. If it seems like I do, then I've been lucky. And if I try, it costs extra. We cannot read people's minds, on the one hand. On the other hand, there are certain signals in communication we study and we put in a system and we test, and we find that they're pretty consistent. But I'm very, very skeptical about conclusions generally, particularly within the so-called science of psychology, because the human factor is so variable and each person is so unique.
Okay. So how do you relate to, psychology to social media?
Well, social media means we want to talk to one another.
Okay.
And generally, despite some exceptions we see of people living in cages and isolating themselves, most people want to talk to other people.
Okay.
People have perceptions. Reality is created kind of between our ears. You know, reality out here is really filtered so many ways. It's created in our heads. So some people have heard or are convinced that they're shy and they're not good at communicating. However, social media gives them a chance to communicate more on their own terms, in their own tempo. Some people who are very introverted, that is, they get their energy from going inside rather than hanging out with others, still might not want to be exposed or engage in social media. But they often do in other ways. Maybe they have just information they put up, or anonymous ways of putting information up, and then they engage with like-minded people or people that get fascinated by them. But we like to communicate mostly.
So what actually makes Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn so popular in a very short time?
I think that now that you say Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, that's after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
When we first knew we could communicate with others,
yep.
People like to communicate with others. However, they have a little voice in their head that say stop, go, or wait, like the traffic light. So the young boy goes into the bar and sees the pretty girl, and he doesn't drink, and he doesn't know what to say. Now he finds a way, even at the beginning, if it was MySpace or just an email or something, before we knew all these established places, way at the beginning, he found a way to communicate and really think over what he wanted to say, press the button and cross his fingers.
Okay.
Later we added cameras, we added other things, you know. And he might, when he takes his picture, pull in his stomach and put on his most exciting T-shirt. But they were able to regulate, but they basically wanted to communicate with others. After a while they learned how to regulate, and Facebook was dedicated to one purpose, we think. There's overlap. And then LinkedIn and Twitter, then they had more possibilities. That made it popular because I can still go into a bar, but I don't like to drink. Maybe I should be going to art galleries. Mm-hmm. People don't drink so much there. Okay. Maybe I should be sitting in parks at universities where people study. And I can go on Facebook. Yeah. I'm a little busy. Are you on Facebook? Let's friend each other tonight.
Yeah.
So this meant we could communicate, but we could regulate things on our own terms a lot better.
Okay, all right. So according to some survey that 80% of the social media users are actually post something about themselves rather than others.
Yeah.
So are we too obsessed to ourselves or too obsessed with the social media?
That 80%, was that from a survey?
A survey from one of the American companies.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
It could have been Nielsen, something like that. Are we more? Your question is: are we more obsessed with ourselves,
or more obsessed with social media?
I'm careful about speaking for millions of people.
Okay.
And obsessed is a psychological word connected to a pathology. You know,
Okay.
we're fixed. Me. To bring it more down to earth, yeah, we are fixed with me, but that doesn't have to be a bad thing because, you know, I don't know about you, I'm not a twin. Okay. So when I was in my beautiful mother's belly for 9 months, there was nobody else there but me and she. So that was about me, and I had to survive. My mother did what she could, the world did what they could, and I did what I could. Okay. Then I came out, it was still about me and me. My big sister was a little jealous, she was 5 years older. And then we had fights about me until we become socialized.
All right.
In America, they say that's a bad thing, like socialism. I'm just saying socialized. Right. We go to school, and I let Ken play with my Barbie doll, and he lets me play with his computer. Okay. And I'm 6 years old. Okay. And we learn to negotiate. But it's still about me getting what I want. And then as I get older, if I'm brought up responsibly, then I'm concerned about his needs so that I feel good that I've served him. But on many levels, it's got to be about me to serve others also. Later on, I get colleagues in school, then I get a wife and a family and a job. And then we have customers, and at the job they say the customer comes first, and we say, yes, boss. It's not true. Because if you take care of yourself, then you have energy to take care of your family. Then you have energy to take care of your colleagues. Yep. Then the customer always is treated well. Yep. And you spend maybe a half an hour or maybe 6 months, in 6 months, 5 or 6 hours with the customer. You spend more time with your colleagues, more with your family, hopefully, and your whole life with yourself. So me is many things, and that's what it is about, but it doesn't have to be a bad
thing. So is there any different human behavior on different social networking sites? Let's say Twitter is fast, LinkedIn is for professionals, Facebook is for relaxed games and chit-chat.
Well, you just said that. See, already it's influenced you.
Okay.
You've decided, well, I'm being corporate, put my tie on, I go on LinkedIn. Oh, I want to take my tie off, put my feet up, then I go on Facebook, and if I just want to provoke or be cute in a few words, I go on Twitter. So your question is, psychologically, are people different? Is that what you're asking?
That's right, yep.
Yeah. Well, what you just said in your question, sometimes the question is the answer, shows that these people have marketed themselves in a way that a lot of people think the way you just said. So, let me put it this way. If we go back to your desire to communicate, I just mentioned, which is general, it's not so much that the psychology changes. It's that Twitter says we're for this, and people say, oh, that's Twitter. I'm going to have to change my psychology. Now I'm going to put my Twitter psychology on. Finished. And I'm going to change my psychology for Facebook. LinkedIn, oh, we have a new project we're launching in the Northeast Pacific. So we have been trained, based on those images, to alter our psychology to those situations, I think.
All right. So does social media actually change human behavior to getting impatient? Let's say Twitter, we limit to 140 characters. Is it? And it's very fast. Social media is about fast and speed.
Yeah.
So does it change a human behavior offline, online?
Well, when we began using telephones, it changed human behavior.
Okay.
Any person who gets a driver's license and experiences that mobility at the age of 18, in America, some places 16, changes their behavior, changes them.
Okay.
First airplane flight, that's where we are. We're in our infancy. Clearly, it's changed us. In terms of patience, it depends on the level of it. But I would maintain most people who are impatient on social media, they're impatient anyway. Because if I make a tweet of 10 words and I want to say more, I can put a link in. That's 1,000, 1,000,000 words. So people learn how to be savvy that way.
Okay. So, according to the latest Nielsen Consumer Report, so 92% of people trust completely or somehow trust recommendation from friends, which is word of mouth marketing online.
Did you say 92%?
92% globally, and Asia Pacific is even more extreme, 94%. Wow. From trust, friends, and family recommendation. All right. So, do you think is that correct? I mean, the data.
Sounds pretty high to me, but I don't know. Did you say that was Asia or Malaysia? Malaysia was 94?
Asia. 94. The global is 92%.
Well, what I'm going to say now, I'm not sure if I believe, but I can push it. Because often the traditional social psychology explanation, which have changed and modified, but generally it says that Asian cultures, now Asian cultures themselves are very complicated, there are many.
Yep.
People in the West associated maybe with Chinese, Japanese, but let's not forget the Indians, let's not forget the Malays and all that. But they're very family-oriented, they're very network-oriented. These countries do not have, like in Northern Europe, for example, formalized networks where when you're old, there's a place you can go, there's an institution. And when you're young, a place you can be minded, there's an institution. The family is the institution.
Yep.
And in that case, people ask one another's opinion a lot, and they respect it. And they often do things together. Maybe a whole family decides they want to purchase this kind of product. So you don't have to ask the second time. We just buy Toyotas because we can count on them. We just buy Toshiba even though my rich cousin who wants to show off has an Apple.
Okay.
That might be an example, but 92, 94 is pretty high.
Yeah, it's very high.
Yeah.
It's very high.
On the other hand, when there's an issue of trust, and people, especially today, don't want to trust all these corporate voices, and products are getting a similar standard. Even cheap cars usually run pretty well. Even a cheap computer, maybe after 2 or 3 years it'll die, but it was cheap. And an expensive one will be obsolete, maybe. Yeah. So it's better to say, well, what's your experience? And what's your experience? Mm-hmm. Or no, don't get this one because I had one and it broke. So I think there's something viable to it, but 92, 94% is high. I don't know how they measured it either.
Okay. So social media is about sharing the content, the information. So what motivates social media users to share the content?
This is tricky. And again, I can't speak for millions of people.
Okay.
But I'd like to point out a few things that I feel are present.
Okay.
I know it myself. Well, you get a situation where little Mary, my 2-year-old daughter, today showed me her ball.
Okay.
And then gave it to the dog. And you take a little picture, and of the little Mary giving the ball to the dog, and I'm motivating to show you how cute my daughter is. That's pretty clear. If I'm putting a movie up showing a politician or a visionary or some person who I feel is stupid, and I just put it out there,
yep,
it might at first seem that I am sharing something about that stupid person.
Okay.
But I'm really talking about myself. You see, was smart enough to catch this guy or lady saying this stupid thing. Don't you agree?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And that's why when George Bush made his speech in China and they walked into a door, that went viral.
Okay, yep.
And the people who put it up there, maybe it was about George Bush, it was about them, look at this jerk,
Okay.
On the other side, people who loved him said, isn't that nice? He's humble. He's not afraid to show that he walks into doors. Isn't he wonderful? He's not snobby like the other guy.
Okay.
So it's about people putting up things showing what they feel themselves.
All right.
It is about their own messages and those parts of which camp they're in, which tribe they're in. They're really taking sides.
Okay. Yep. So are there distinct personality with the different motivations?
Are there certain personalities that respond to different types of motivations?
Yes, right.
Sure. And it's hard to generalize because psychology of personality is a study. You can get a PhD in it. Mm-hmm. And personality types can be mapped today. I mean, in the old days, we used to give people tests, and it showed, based on their response, certain things, and then after a while we learned how to. I'm so old, I remember we would take these responses and put them in computers that were punch cards. And then later we learned, you know, I don't want to bore you, but then we got Excel and we can make graphs of certain tendency and personality traits.
Okay.
Traits are tendencies. And then there's a test like the profile of the Myers-Briggs personality temperaments. And you can do these things. And you generate personality types. The problem is, it's like Gregory Bateson, the great anthropological psychologist, once said.
Okay.
If you have a great soccer player, football, that soccer player can put the ball on the ground and know so much about physics, not knowing they know it.
Okay.
Or a pool player knowing so much about physics, not knowing they know it. They know how much force to use, at what angle, at what part of the ball to hit it to make it go there.
Yep.
Take the ball away and put a puppy there, you don't know what's going to happen.
Yes, right.
Now, I would say generally about human personalities and human beings, imagine every human person has hooks around them.
Okay.
Kind of like Velcro, but not so many, you know. And these hooks are lights, they're lamps of value, what's important to them. And when I talk about smart, curious, young Chinese men, mid-30s, late 30s, from 25 to 40. See?
Yeah.
I just lit some lights there.
Okay.
But if I talk about right-wing rednecks in Oklahoma that don't like the fact that the President of America is black, that are not lighting lights. And in me, I get annoyed, okay? So whatever lights people's lights, and these lights are values, what's important to them.
Understand, yep.
So the motivation is, and that's why marketers divide populations up in demographics in different segments. That's why when Toyota makes training, it's neutral, but when they train the soft skills, it's based on the culture of the country they're coming into. That's why countries like Carlsberg that sell beer, I lived in Denmark for a long time, when they market in Malaysia, which officially has a strong Muslim, non-alcohol population, has a different marketing. I don't say it's less aggressive, might even be more, because they go after the expats and the people who drink even more.
Yep.
In Denmark, they're more subdued. But they're always looking to light the lights. That's why in America, you have companies that make cigarettes that actually spend millions on programs to help people stop smoking.
Okay.
Very good marketing.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's about touching lights of the individuals and the reputation to make them look humanistic. Oil companies that show how much they work to keep the environment clean.
Yeah. To make them.
Yeah, to balance the image.
Yes, right.
And motivate people to see it's not so bad. Or coal companies, you know, they're killing people. Miners of luxury, they talk about clean coal.
Yeah.
And show smiling white people. And a few smiling brown people in America looking all clean. Like that crap's going to stop messing up your lungs. So, lighting lights, again, is back to being plausible.
Yeah, understand.
Creating truths of convenience.
Okay. Alright, sure, okay. Does sharing online help in building a genuine human relationship? Because I think that if you use too much of sharing too much of information on Facebook, Twitter, it doesn't help in building genuine relationship compared to face-to-face.
Well, if you're being scientific, relationship just means connection. So you can really learn to hate people.
Okay.
And have very bad relationships. It's like building up dirt in your engine, you know. It's still a relation. You're still building something, it's just dirt. I think all interactions between people change them. So if you're driving along and you go into a rest stop and buy a little piece of papaya with a vendor who you never saw before and never see again, that little interaction has changed you both. Not much, but it's changed. So relationships are being built, modified, and designed.
All right. Okay. Let's talk about the social media users. So they share their likes, the comments, some information without how to judge whether the information is correct or not. They even abuse the freedom. I saw some of the youngsters, I mean Gen Y, uploaded the naked photos and videos. Some even, there's a case recently, a girl want to kill President Obama and tweet on Twitter. So how do you talk about it? I mean, what's your comment on this issue?
Okay, I think we're really talking about two issues.
Yep.
We're talking about two main issues.
Yes, right.
The first one is related to fact-checking.
Yep.
Making statements that are not based by any fact. They're pure opinion. Opinion's okay, but if you express opinion as though it's a fact, then I think personally that's unethical, but what I think doesn't matter, and because that's what's done. The second thing is when you're abusing a legal freedom of expression by provoking others' sense of morality and decency, in fact. So the first one is this. If I say Barack Obama's a gentleman and Mitt Romney is a greedy jerk,
okay,
then that's okay in a way. I feel that's my charm. That's my commentary. We use it a lot in comedy. You know, they said about George Bush that he once said that there was an intelligence crisis in America, but he didn't really realize where the crisis was.
Yeah.
But that also alludes to the fact that he went to a war on an intelligence where there were mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction that weren't there. So at least you're alluding to a fact, and not everyone will make that connection. But to say that Obama wants to model America after European socialism, which in itself doesn't have to be bad. It means the population would be healthy and well educated. That's to attribute the fact that this guy gets up in the morning and says, I want to make America to Europe, which I doubt. There are a lot of things that happen in politics that are not fact checked, and the standard of responsibility in that area is getting lowered very quickly.
Okay.
Recently, in a Republican National Committee, National Convention, Paul Ryan made statements which contradicted what he himself voted for. It was pointed out within minutes. But you can continue to repeat non-factually based information. And there's an expression we have in communication psychology, it doesn't have to be true, it just has to be plausible.
Okay, I understand.
So if you really, like in America, the food lobbies convinced the government that pizza is a vegetable, because they were making millions of dollars selling cheap pizza to schools. And it has tomato in it. But because they wanted to make money, and the schools, wanted to deal with them because maybe they make more money, it's a vegetable. And if you are eating, if you're drinking orange soda, which is sugar and water, and convincing yourself you're getting vitamin C, then for you it's true.
Yep.
So this is the brain and its filters. Regarding uploading things that could provoke others or not respectful of their morality, this is what happens. It's the flexibility. Take the example of Islam, which is a controversial area in the West. I myself have engaged with the Islamic community for many, many years. I worked a lot with torture victims, and which was treated with love and respect and openness in many ways, and that was also unfit conduct. But Islam is very flexible. People don't realize it's very flexible. Once some things are right or wrong, halal or haram, but then they say, if you're in doubt, you ask your heart 3 times. So some people say, it's okay to kill him because he doesn't agree with me, because that's what my heart said. Well,
Okay.
I'm not sure that God was talking,
Okay, yep.
And somebody else would say, I respect the Buddhists because they will literally not kill a fly.
Oh, okay, understand.
So that's why you get lunatics there. And you get it in Christianity too. you know, America's a Christian nation, everyone else should leave, you know, and they say facts that are just not true. So that's a mixture of both things. It is, it's the price of freedom, or whatever we would call it.
Right. Do you have any solution to, I mean, to, not to say control, because, you know, social media users, they don't like to be controlled. Any solution to solve the problem, to educate them?
Well, just like Mitt Romney says, the American industry, you know, when Obama saved the auto industry, he said they should have gone broke.
Okay.
Then he said he didn't say that. They should have a managed bankruptcy. Or when people, because of deregulation and corruption, had to leave their homes because they couldn't afford to be in them anymore, because the banks said they were worth more, and they were paying on a higher price, but they were in fact worth less. He said, let the free market solve it. You know, so they'll move out in the streets, and richer people will buy their homes. They can move in again and rent from them their own homes. You know, it's a very simple thing.
Okay.
There are checks and balances on the free market. That's what he's trying to say. Things that regulate themselves.
Okay.
We can hope that in the social media world, when somebody says things that are crazy, somebody else will comment and try and bring it back to the same. And to some degree, it happens. I don't know that it's a solution. Most problems in life don't get solved, managed, until they're replaced by other problems.
Yep, agree, yeah.
When I was 14, I was very concerned about my pimples.
Okay, all right.
I never solved that, but it became a smaller problem because I had other problems to manage, like how to pay for my student debt. You know?
Okay, I understand.
So we hope that people will correct one another.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we have iPad, iPhone, smartphone, or tablet, computer, and we have social media, Facebook. So there's a term called together alone, which means we're sitting together, but we connected to using the iPad, iPhone, feeling alone. What is your comment on this issue? And some of the psychologists from America agree that staying alone is all right. But I personally disagree with their opinions.
Well, I've been a practicing psychologist since 1963. I got authorized in Europe some years later. That was just my bachelor's degree. Then I got my master's degree, and I had my experience. And I don't know that I have a right to say something all right.
Okay.
Maybe they do. Maybe they think they're God. I don't know. I think it's a cute discussion. Maybe they wrote a book about social media, or they're trying. They're being interviewed, they're trying. Maybe they just did research, and the research was funded by Microsoft and Intel.
Okay.
And when they filled out the form and got their $800,000 to do the research, maybe, some executives shook their hand, you know, and they had a weekend meet on their yacht. I don't know.
Okay.
And now they're asked this question 6 months later. Oh, yes, okay. Well, they don't decide what's okay.
All right.
I don't think. They can have their input, just like I'm not going to decide what's okay. That's number one. Number two, it's a silly question in a way. Because I'm 70. Now, I remember when people sat alone, before we had iPhones or mobile phones, and some people talked and other people...
Okay.
And then Uncle Louis sat in the corner drinking his bourbon, getting drunk because he didn't like them. And Aunt Fred used to, Uncle Fred said, hey, when are we leaving? When are we leaving? We were together. That was before iPads, right? We were together and alone anyway. Or somebody went in the back. I used to have an uncle who loved to fix things, and he couldn't stand the family. He didn't, because they gossiped a lot. He was my buddy.
Okay.
When I was 8 years old, he used to make me coffee, and we talked about how everybody was talking, nothing, do anything. So when he visited the family, and he had to put a suit on, he didn't like it, and he had a World's Fair pin from the World's Fair, and he'd get very uncomfortable to all the gossiping and the crap. So he'd go around looking for things that were broken, and he'd take a screwdriver and start fixing the house.
Okay.
It was before iPads.
Okay.
Now, then you can say, I don't know that he was alone. He loved the family. He just thought they talked a lot of nonsense. So he fixed my aunt's thing, which was broken for 12 years because her husband didn't do it. He was too busy gossiping or talking about money. And somebody could argue, well, I'm on my iPad. I'm not talking to you because I have much more. I got more going on here. I can see you any day. Or you asked me 3 weeks ago to work something out, and that's what I'm doing right now. So I don't know what that is exactly. I think that that's something cute that we devised to talk about as though all of a sudden it happened. I also remember when we had email. I was one of the first to have email. I was in Denmark, it was 18 years ago, and the secretary said, "That's horrible, because now we can't sit and talk to each other. Each person sits with their own computer." It was the same thing 18 years ago. Well, I knew this secretary 2 or 3 years ago, and she had plenty of time to talk to people, and all she did was gossip and find things that she didn't like and complain. And I wished I had email, you know. So it's necessary for us to do what's relevant. Again, values, what's important to us. And sometimes it's the most social thing to do when people are talking nonsense, to open up a book and read it, you know, or knit. Sometimes women will knit when they have to put up with crap from men, because at least a sweater comes out of it. Okay? So I think it's a good question in the sense that it comes up a lot, but it's a silly question. It's a question for question's sake. I don't know whether we grow or not, and there's no answer. And I personally, you know, it's always going to be there.
Okay. For social media marketers, from psychology perspective, how should you advise them to create a quality content to communicate and engage the social media users?
Well, the operative word there is quality. Somebody in the southern states of America who is in the Ku Klux Klan, who doesn't like this person in the White House, thinks quality is a nice Nazi movie.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
And he can sit there and say Heil Hitler. That's quality for that person. For another person, quality might be like a thriller, you know, a funny, cute little moment and it's over.
Okay.
And then go on with their day. Some people, quality is a good discussion. Okay. Either visually or in writing. Huffington Post right now, which is a very dynamic newspaper.
Yes, right.
Some people say it's a little left-oriented. They just have an online service now, which is amazing.
Yes.
In the sense that it's so flexible. You read the Huffington Post, you click, then you see one person in one studio with an Apple computer talking to 4 or 5 others all around the world. And it's a 5 or 6 minute segment, and it's very good visually for the people who don't want to read. It's a high quality intellectually because these people don't agree and they're very well moderated. Then at the end he says, if you want to see, and you've seen 6 or 7 minutes, you want to see the whole thing, just click here. So you can decide the degree of engagement. But the quality of the content, I personally think, is high, and the respect for the viewer is high because you can dose how much information you want.
Agree. Yes, right.
But the other guy, the redneck, still wants Heil Hitler. Remember that. There'll always be somebody who wants Heil Hitler.
Okay. So Steve Godin, one of the greatest authors in the world, says that people like to listen to stories. So is storytelling a good marketing strategy? I mean, I believe this is a good marketing strategy for Western countries. But since Malaysia, according to Nelson, Malaysia is the second largest country in Asia, keep looking for discounts, coupons. So is storytelling strategy works in Malaysia?
Well, I'm not sure that Seth Godin is the best author in the world.
Okay.
You know, but he is a funny, charming, very precise author about marketing.
Yeah.
And that's what he is. And he talks about storytelling as an effective tool. And because he's American and he's limited to that audience, maybe he also implies it's effective in the West.
Okay.
However, if you've ever hung out with Africans on every level, they communicate a lot by telling stories and by singing.
By singing.
Yeah. I used to work as a musician with Africans. I was the only white boy. And they would joke with each other, and we'd be walking down the street, and they'd be dancing and be telling stories. And an African can tell, they could say, my name is Achmir, and my father's name is this, and my grandfather, and they can go back hundreds of years and tell stories.
Okay.
Storytelling is very powerful. It's in all cultures. The Asian culture, the Indian culture, Chinese, we tell stories. So yes, it's effective. There are several reasons why. Is that also what you were asking?
Yeah.
Yeah. The first thing is, it's generally, unless it's satire or sarcastic, it's generally not threatening. Okay. Everyone likes to hear a story.
Yep.
You know, unless you are, if I say, I don't know about tall, handsome young Chinese guys with black shirts, they're all gangsters. Now I'm telling a story, okay. You know, but generally, okay? The second thing is, when you tell a story, you are controlling the sequence of information.
Okay.
If I don't want to teach you something fast, I show you a picture.
Sure.
Goes in fast.
Okay.
But I can't control if you're going to look at that part of the picture, or that part of the picture, or that part of the picture. If I say, once upon a time, in a rural Chinese village, there was a man who made a living. See, now you don't know anything until I give you the next information.
Yeah.
Making shoes for donkeys.
Okay.
And nobody made shoes for donkeys then, they just made shoes for horses.
Okay.
And after a while, he got a little bored, but he was good with tools, and he was poor, and he visited his friend in Malaysia, and so now we have Genting Highlands.
Okay.
You decide in a story what information you're going to give. You control the degree of information and the sequence, A, B, C, D. You can't do that visually.
Okay.
So stories work if they relate to the people who are listening, and if they respect the people who are listening. We don't want stories that insult them.
Yep. Agree. Yeah.
And people are always much smarter than you think, so you don't want to trick them into buying your products, because then they'll never buy your products, because they won't trust you.
Okay. So let's talk about the education. Mm-hmm. So most of the universities, schools, colleges the courses are outdated. I mean, marketing courses. Mm-hmm. So after graduated, students can't catch up with the latest marketing, let's say social media marketer. So, okay, what is your comment on this issue?
Well, not just in marketing. Mm-hmm. I'm 70 years old. When I went to university, I went to a good school, Rutgers University. It was all men then. We were not in the Ivy League because we took money from the state, but we were older than America. We started with Princeton, Harvard, Yale, 1766. And our professors were very good, and they would say, gentlemen, everything you learn here is outdated.
Okay.
Because, and there have been studies all along and still going on, that when new information comes, for it to come at least on the undergraduate level, bachelor's degree level, it must be true and tried and tested before it gets into the textbooks.
Okay.
Today we update things more, and our information will be fresher. And this is a problem for the professors or the teachers who are lazy or rigid in their thinking. So I wouldn't say it's just marketing, but with regard to marketing, your question is, how do we compensate for this oldness? We have to understand that we can't control the information the students get. We cannot control the sophistication and the quality of the questions the students will ask us when we teach them.
Yes, right.
We cannot be authoritarian. I'm right, you're wrong, I'm smart, you're dumb.
Yep.
That means even in Asia, where we have respectful students, they must still be respectful. But there must be a language built up for respectful dialogue. And what has to happen is the teachers have to be as plugged in as the students. Okay. Then you might ask, why do we pay them money to teach the students if they don't know any more? The difference is they're connected, if they're good teachers, to tradition.
Yes, sir.
Generation Y, as they call them, they were born in the 80s, or the kids who are 20, 22, they are much more tech savvy maybe than their teachers even.
Yes, sir.
In most areas. Mm-hmm. But the teachers lived through and got smart in the area way before we had the tech.
Yes, sir.
So appreciating the depth of typing in a topic, in a subject line, and bingo, getting the information and going through it, is, by an open teacher, better taught by someone who used to have to take the encyclopedia down from the shelf or go to the library and do this and make all those notes. So we have to use the traditions of the teacher. The teacher must be humble and be willing to go in and get paid to learn from the students. And the students must be paid not in money, but in time and trust to inspire the teacher.
Okay.
So it's a very exciting development.
Okay, I understand. All right. Since social media or internet is so fast and lecturers are so busy, how should lecturers catch up with the latest technology, social media, so that they can communicate or engage students?
Do you mean lecturers in live situations, in e-learning situations?
Yes, right, e-learning situation.
Okay. Actually, last week I went to a training which involved e-learning, construction and curricula of e-learning.
Okay.
See, I'm 70. I'm still doing this, going to courses, paying the money, sitting there, taking notes at the hotel, drinking the coffee.
Okay.
And there were what was made clear to me is e-learning is a very broad thing.
Yep.
E-learning that is well designed. One model I know is a professor, actually here in Malaysia, who is 70 also. The two people I know who are very active in e-learning are in their 70s.
Mm-hmm.
It's very strange. This one guy is a local guy. He's a dato, like a knight.
Okay.
You know, he's got lots of money. He doesn't have to do this. And he brought e-learning into the training of the medical institutions, doctors, nurses, healthcare professionals, 10 years ago. I went to a lecture with him, with Tony Buzan. He had an iPad and a Galaxy, and he's doing his whole act.
Okay.
And explaining these things. And in his model, the student sees the lecture, which is pre-recorded, but can write email questions to the professor. Mm-hmm. And then there is a live meet about twice a month. Mm-hmm. And some of the email questions which are crucial, he answers right away. The other ones are taken up at the live meet. So you maintain that. That's one model. Mm-hmm. The other model, on the other extreme, has no professor. This is e-learning. You get the information, you show that you've got it, you maybe write an essay, press a button, you get a comment, you go on to the next level, the next level, the next level. Usually for the sake of accreditation, you know, to be authorized, you have to go into a live test in a room.
Okay.
You know, if it's to be authorized to the Oxford Standard or things like that. So a teacher has to understand the design of the e-learning. Mm-hmm. That's important.
Okay.
E-learning teachers, I personally think, have to still know how to stand in front of a classroom and stand in front of people, no matter how they design, if they want to present. Or else they have to practice in front of dead robots. But to have this vitality, there should be a human interaction of some sort. But that's me. Some don't agree with that.
Okay. Okay. So we just talked about the freedom abuse on social media. Okay. So if you were a trainer, how should you train teachers to prepare students, all right, in using social media?
I would first start, like I said before, with the tradition. Tradition mm-hmm. says, I have a PhD, or I have an MA, or I have 30 years experience, a little of all that, mm-hmm. and that tells me I should teach you this way. Bingo. Mm-hmm. First day, that's what you teach. Mm-hmm. Now that you know that and can show me that you understand the traditional basis of communication and media, mm-hmm. now we go into how we use media. So everybody goes into groups and researches something. Mm-hmm. And this group of students observes. Mm-hmm. And then we switch. Mm-hmm. What do you see that is not covered by the traditional way of teaching media that I just explained to you? Mm-hmm. That my training taught me.
Okay.
What's going on? How do we fix it? Do we have to fix it? How do we make it better? Mm-hmm. So you take away the security of the textbook, mm-hmm. and you put the whole internet as a resource.
Okay.
And the textbook is not something to teach us, it's something to inspire us to confrontation. Right. All great decisions are made in defiance of management.
Okay.
Tom Peters, Crazy Times for Crazy Organizations.
Yeah. Tom Peters.
All great decisions are made in defiance of management.
So let's talk about corporate. All right, you.
Yeah.
All right. Is this a KFC incident, which is very popular a few months back?
Oh.
So the incident was the KFC staff
KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Kentucky Fried Chicken, yes, right.
Yeah.
Went all over the counter to punch customers in ICT Shah Alam.
Yeah, it was here in Malaysia.
Yep.
And it was because somebody had to wait too long for their chicken.
Chicken, yes, right.
which actually, with all respect, I've heard Kentucky Fried Chicken is composed of chemicals and cardboard and phosphate and all that. But anyway, I don't know. Don't sue me, please. Okay. They had to wait for what they call Kentucky Fried Chicken too long.
Yes, right.
And then they were complaining politely.
Yep.
And the KFC guy,
the staff,
hit him.
Yes, sir.
And punched him. And then other people joined in, other customers, attacking the KFC guy. Is that right? Or
try to control the fight.
Okay.
Try to control.
And it was called Kentucky Fried Chicken. Is that right?
Yes. So my question is
stop the interview and go see it and come back to us. Okay. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Go ahead.
Okay. For big corporate is this incident for KFC is late in 1 week in order for them to apologize. So my question is it very hard for big corporate to say sorry, to apologize?
Well, yeah, I think so. You're dealing with another psychological element of mass psychology here, social psychology, because still, the corporate controlling people, and this is, I'm not trying to be political, but everything is political in the sense that we're talking about socioeconomics and communication. Now, just like when President Obama says something like, this is disrespect for example, Islam, the attacks maybe in Libya, for example. Then his opponents say, he shouldn't apologize.
Okay.
And he is not apologizing. He's saying this is disrespectful. These are good examples. Also, when by mistake the army admits in Afghanistan they burned a lot of Quran. It was a mistake.
Yeah.
They put them in the wrong pile. And the generals apologized.
Okay.
Then Obama, who wasn't really involved, was accused of apologizing. Okay. Apologizing somehow is a non-macho thing. A real man doesn't apologize. Now this is stupid. Now I don't know. In the case of KFC, which is an American company, but it was controlled in Asia, it was the Asian division that apologized, but it's still controlled by America and could well be run by Americans, expats here, or a mixture. The answer first is, yeah, it's difficult. I think that's stupid because they think too short term.
Okay.
If they said immediately, as for example, Starbucks, an American company.
Yes, sir.
There was a woman somebody said something to her because she was gay, lesbian, okay?
Okay.
And it was not respectful.
Yep.
And immediately she was put on notice, and if she didn't apologize to the customer, she would be fired. Now this is Guy Howard Schultz, who also refuses to give any money to any political campaign in America. And Starbucks is big.
Yep, agree.
And he apologizes a lot, but he corrects it. He gets us back to everyone tries to start with a point of honesty. You and I trust each other, we're good friends, and then one day I do something you don't approve of, and in my bank, your trust account, you trusted me 80%. Now my account with you is down to 50% because I lied, and I have to go and fix it with an explanation or something. Schultz understands that. And he understands he can't figure out all the cultures he serves, so he has to come to the universals of human dignity that work in all cultures. I messed up. We messed up. I'm taking responsibility. Here somehow maybe they figured people will forget about it. And this is the mistake a lot of these people make. They underestimate the wisdom of the consumer. So this was a fight. People were hit. It may have been that worker had been working 16-hour days, been paid very little, was tired,
felt frustrated.
And if it was up to that worker, that chicken, or whatever it is they call chicken, should have been there 10 minutes earlier, that they agree. But somebody else was back there texting his girlfriend or boyfriend, and the chicken didn't come out. Or the grill was broken, and they said, well, put gaffer tape on it and let's get through the day. So there are a lot of reasons, but no one is taking responsibility that should, and they're trying to hope it'll go away. Very bad.
Yeah, all right, okay. So the next question is about social media policy. So a lot of companies in Malaysia try to control the staff in I mean, in working hours, in using the social media. But social media marketing strategy is one of the current strategy to engage, since a lot of traffic on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. All right. So, is this the right thing to do for companies to control staff in using social media?
I don't like the word right or wrong. That's God's department. That's moralizing. But I like to use the term work. Does it work 100%, 80%, 60%, 50%? You know, is it appropriate? Not right or wrong. Yes, I think it's appropriate. I think that there are basically two kinds of leaders. There are interpersonal leaders and goal-oriented leaders. It should be a mixture.
Okay.
You get a guy like Jack Welch in GE, very effective, very goal-oriented. You know, he trims what doesn't work. He's very nice, very charming, that's that. And then you get a guy like Howard Schultz, who's more interpersonal. But no matter what, I don't see how I should pay you. Remember, there's three currencies. There's money, time, and trust. I'm not going to pay you with these three things to go on Facebook. When I have to produce something so that I can afford to pay you. So it's against your own interest. I don't want you coming wearing dirty, smelly clothes. I don't want you coming wearing no clothes. I don't want you parking your bicycle on my desk. So this is, you know. So you should not be using social media for your own purposes. And certain personal phone calls I can understand if you have a child or, God forbid, somebody's sick. But most personal, this is the way it is. We're trying to generate income so we can keep our jobs, including yours.
Okay. All right. Okay. Some companies, before they hire staff now, they go to scan, that person profile on Google, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. So is this legal, ethical for employers to scan the profile?
Well, before we had these things, the work market was different. They had what you ask around. It was easier in a small community. But if it's a pretty high level, it's one thing if it's somebody who just opens the door for you or maybe does files, because then if you hire them and they're not good, you can fire them maybe. Although then we had better unions. I'm talking about America. But you still asked around, and there were still lists around. And the ethical issue is if you abuse it. If you don't hire them because they have a race you don't like, or you don't hire them because they're women they make up pregnant, you know, that's going to be unethical anyway. But it's a fact of life that we have media, and the corporations and the people have chosen it. Anybody looking for a job could choose not to have a Facebook account.
Okay, understand.
They might not be hired because it's very trendy now to have a Facebook account. The most important thing is to put anything you do on your Facebook account, you must imagine that a person who's going to hire you not just today but next year is watching. Because they are.
Yes, yeah.
And that in the old days we'd ask around for high-level positions. And this is easier, and this is what's done. So I think that that's a fact of life.
So since you are a trainer, what kind of advice or training you give a corporate to prepare themselves in the social media marketing and psychology?
Well, the psychology is a broad field. So if psychology, which means the science of the mind or the soul, that's where the term comes from, is that broad. I think what we have to focus on, if we want to get right into something fundamental, that will always work across cultures, and then from there they have to build up their own variations. The basic thing that they have to have a deep understanding of are values. Now, I don't mean values like politicians say, we have great American values. They don't say what they are, and that basically means keep everybody white and blue-eyed and rich, except everybody else, you know, and all that. No, I mean a value is the answer to the question, what's important to you about blah, blah, blah. What's important to you about a good car is the basis of good sales technique. And it's much more powerful than, I'm going to tell you a story and get your money out of your wallet and get your signature on the contract. A good corporation says, this would not service you best. or this will service you better. This is too expensive for you. However, if we do this and this, and okay. So values is what's important to you. People should be attuned to that. With regards to social media, every time we do anything when interacting, first social media was not Facebook. It's when I came out of my mother's belly and started crying. That was social media.
Okay.
And she engaged with me, and the doctors engaged with me. And they tried to assess what's important to this new baby. And experience gave them some ways of guessing. We're constantly assessing what's important to one another. And the science, art and science of values, what's important to us. And also, it's great when it's natural for us to accommodate people. Sometimes we can't. If it's important for you to be out of here in 5 minutes because you have to do something else, and that value is serving my family as well as my job. This is your job. And I can't accommodate you. I have to at least say, I know how important your family is to you. Therefore, I will really try to make sure that this part of your work today will be finished in a good way so that you want it to come back. I apologize for not being able to accommodate you totally. But I also hope that you enjoy more time with your family, because in the end, we'll be done today. That means I've given you a receipt. I know it's important to you that your number one workplace is the home, number two is the studio. So showing people respect for their values, that's the basic thing. In social media in particular, where they say they want privacy and they tell us so much. Sometimes we have to protect these people because they're telling too much.
Okay.
We have to say, you don't have to say so much. So values that resonate with those who are listening, and teaching people how to know them generally and then specifically from person to person.
Okay. We have interesting topics. This is about the psychology of social e-commerce. I believe a lot of social media marketers or internet marketers would like to know. So let's start with a simple question. Why people buy online?
Why do people buy online?
It's very,
Well, that's one of those questions almost everybody can answer, because most people either do it or they decide they never will. So that means a lot of people who go online have an experience of it. Why people buy online generally, and this is not that complicated, is why I buy online when I can. That is, they don't have to go out the house. It's usually a product they know, but it could be a product that's very well presented. You can zoom in and see things, but it's usually a product you know. If you're responsible, it's from a vendor who has a good guarantee, and if possible, there's hotline information so that you can have the human interaction. But when all that is said, it's easier, it's faster, it's almost always cheaper.
Okay. It's okay. How about review, rating, testimonials? Because some marketers say that if you have a testimonials, reviews and ratings like Amazon.com on your website, it helps increase at least 30% of your sales. Does that influence the buyers as well?
Generally, I think so.
Okay.
But it depends on what it is. I mean, if it's a machine that helps you lose weight, and it has a picture of somebody with their belly sticking out, and a second later the belly is all in, they got all these muscles, and their names are Charlie Brown from Chicopee, Texas, and this is a great thing, wow. I don't know. It looks like kind of a cliche that was put in there. However, it's like in giving people feedback, whether positive or negative, if I say, gee, you're a wonderful person, then, I like that once or twice. After a while, you'll become immune. But if I'm specific and say, what you did the other day, by allowing this to happen, by asking you questions slowly and clearly, by helping me in this building this interview up, is something I'm very grateful for. And when you did it at 10 o'clock this morning, did that, and 12 o'clock, the more specific you are in a testimonial, and the more connected you are, and the more what's said and done is more obviously connected, the more powerful it is. Because it's another form of recommendation. It's just usually with people we don't know directly.
All right. Okay. This is interesting question. So the whole world is talking about likes, Facebook likes, the button. All right.
The button.
Yep. Follow button on Twitter or on LinkedIn. All right. Okay. Do the buttons have really influence in social e-commerce? Let's say you like the product. Does it influence me to buy the product as well?
Well, again, I can give you my opinion. My intuition says no.
Okay.
Because it goes 2 or 3 ways. I mean, it might influence some. I have a few friends. A friend of mine opened a restaurant in Kuala Lumpur. I love this guy, and I know it's a good restaurant, so I wrote like. So that was honest. But if I didn't know him, I don't know if I'd write like. We also know that every time somebody has a business, they send out to all their friends, please click like. So most of the likes come from there anyway.
Yeah.
On the other hand, generally if you have a lot of likes, I'm pretty sure it raises you on the search engines. So you're easier to find. So as a marketer, it's good to get them, even if you brazenly and directly ask for it. So if I click like, it's because I like the person or I want to help them. So maybe it does help, but I think it's contrived. It's not natural. I mean, it's because you like the person. But when that's said, it's important to remember one thing. Organizations, people say, I don't like General Motors. Well, General Motors is people. And people who make decisions. I don't believe that corporations are people. No. Corporations are ways in which people can hustle. But if you click like because you have a connection to that person, then that shows maybe it's a kind of testimonial.
Okay, all right.
So it again goes back to that.
Okay, yep. This is another interesting question. So I have tried hard to search the success rate of tag without permission on Facebook. So a lot of people upload products, tag people without permission. So they do success, but they make someone frustrated as well. So my question is that on Facebook in general sales, but it seems there's no official report on this issue. I do want to know that tag without permission success.
Well, this is something new for me too. This is something you mentioned, and I noticed it because when I first experienced tagging, it was an innocent thing. Apple users experienced it in iPhoto 6 or 7 years ago, which introduced face recognition and tagging. And then you could actually look in a database for these faces, and it actually finds the faces based on tagging. It uses tagging as a hook to the faces. I can go in this program, this is before Facebook had it, and say Kent under Facebook recognition, and anything that was tagged with Kent would come up.
Okay.
Then a programmer told me that certain words or certain expressions can be tagged. I can take a word that I use a lot, like redneck or Ku Klux Klan, and tag it. And I know the Apple system best, but they have Spotlight that goes through all your data, and every time the word KKK or redneck comes up, in any document, anywhere it comes. Now, I could see, technically when you are on Facebook among friends, and without your permission, if I go up there and I see your face, I can write, that's George Clooney. You know, and all the young girls will say, or that's Christopher Bales.
Okay.
Oh, really? And that would be tagging without permission. But it's not, because we're friends.
Yes,
and you gave me permission to be a friend.
Yeah.
So you gave me permission to tag you. Yeah. That's just the legality of it all. Now, whether it would work in marketing, is that your question also?
Yes, right.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, usually when you tag, you're tagging pictures. But I'm sure they have people who are trying to make it work. Every time there's a picture of a Coca-Cola bottle, or there's not many pictures of Coca-Cola bottles that'll sell it. But what would happen if friends were paid money to, every time there's a picture, find your picture and say, he wants a Coke.
Okay.
Say his name.
Yeah.
And they just kept doing it.
Okay.
And she wants a Coke, and you want a Coke, and you want a Coke, and a picture of Bill Clinton, he wants a Coke, and just instead of tagging a little message.
Okay.
That technically could be done until it stopped. And people would be annoyed, but they get very fascinated. You know?
Oh, okay, I understand. Because I do feel frustrated even I have a relationship with the tagger. Yeah. Even if he tag the product that I don't want you. Yeah. All right. Okay. So the next question is about blogging. So a lot of people blog. All right. So a lot of people talk about the blog to generate sales. Is that true that we can use blog to build relationship, and then to convert the readers to become a buyer?
Actually, people speak of blogs as though it came with the internet. It means, I forgot what it means. A log is a log, and then B means, in the word blog means...
It's a web blog, actually. It's originated from web blog.
Yeah, okay, so they took the W-E away.
Yes, right.
Okay. Now, a web blog is an opinion.
Yes, yeah.
Formally, it's an editorial.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed the other day that this and this and this was happening, and people are getting them, blah, blah, blah. Okay. But a commercial, in a way, you know, this is why you should drive Honda instead of Kia, is a blog.
Okay.
Right? I mean, it's not a web blog, but it's an opinion. And there have been games, for example, published where they might have accidentally, in the game, in the chase, all the cars are made by Chrysler. And Chrysler pays for that. But it never says Chrysler, you know. You can put things in. Now, a blog is an opinion.
Yes, right.
So this whole thing is going on in the internet, in the news, between Apple and Samsung.
The lawsuit?
Huh?
The lawsuit.
Yeah, lawsuits.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes I think, I'm a little paranoid, that maybe they got together and said, okay, I'll sue you for $5 billion. You give me $5 billion. 2 days later, I'll sue you for $5 billion. But they're both getting a lot of publicity. They're stirring up the tablet market. I'm not saying they're doing this, but... And then, you have the Pepsi and the Coke people, and you're going to get the Apple and the Samsung people, and stirring up... And people are buying stuff, you know, maybe to take a side. It's maybe not direct, they're going to buy more than they normally would, but blogs are designed to influence people.
Okay.
And why couldn't it be elegantly, or not so elegantly, folded into promoting a product or a brand?
Mm-hmm. All right, I understand. All right. So group buying, which is Groupon, Living Social, is another form of the social e-commerce as well. So what is the psychology behind the group buying? Why is so successful?
Yeah, by group buying you mean companies like Groupon.
Yep.
Where we don't know one another, but we get together.
Yes, right.
And actually Groupon lowers the price for a day or two.
Yes,
right?
right.
The psychology? Well, there is psychology, I guess, because it's, again, the discounts. I would call it even more, psychology or not, there's psychology to everything, you know. Psychologists like to think there's psychology to everything, because it's human behavior, cognitive processes, how we think. But it's a marketing tool. I'm running a business. Business is slow these days, and I discount a product. I might even take a loss, but I get products out of my shelves into people's homes, and then the company that does it, like Groupon, which is a very big one, also is a winner.
Okay.
Every time I look at my Nokia telephone, I got it real cheap. Now, technically I know it's a 3-year-old model that was laying around somewhere, but it's got a good new guarantee. But I associate it not so much with Nokia, but my gratitude to Groupon. Because I wanted that model when it came out 3 years ago. It was too expensive. Now I got it for nearly nothing.
Okay.
So that's the psychology from Groupon. But as marketing, it's a very good tool for getting customers moving, getting customers and vendors connected. If the connection is good, then they might pay a higher price or a full price later.
Okay.
So it's a stimulus. It's an economic stimulus in a way.
Okay, all right. Okay. So finally, what are the marketing strategy that you would like to recommend our viewers or our social media marketers in order to succeed on social media marketing or social e-commerce?
Yeah.
Yeah. From psychology perspective, what are the marketing strategy? What are the marketing strategy you want to recommend?
So that means if I were to advise e-marketers,
yes, right.
What they should be aware of
yes,
to
right.
get success.
How to use, yeah.
Yeah, and again, you're being very urbanistic. We're basically trying to get into people's wallets.
Okay.
But we're trying to get, if we're just trying to get their money,
okay.
then a company that is basically based on bottom line and nothing else, and good companies aren't, but they usually have a lifestyle like a drug addict. They go up and down and die.
All right.
There's a difference between saying, even though in an element, we're after your money, and we're after prosperity. We're after the long haul. So the strategy will always be aware of the three kinds of currencies: money,
trust,
time, and trust.
Yep.
Pretty much in that order, because as you go into time, it's more valuable and more abstract. Trust, more valuable. I know in Denmark they did a survey of a major department store, which is technically was owned by Unilever, which is a Dutch company, but they had these department stores in Denmark, and they were also connected to Philips. I mean, that's how things are. Where it was a good department store. It is a good department store,
right.
And they have brands that, especially like Nike and Adidas in that department, very good buys. It's like 20-30% of the original price. Now, when you buy it, it's the last year's model, 3 years model, but it doesn't matter. But they, in the price, to still make money, they assume 30% of the people will return the products within a week.
Okay.
But they still make money.
All right.
And they actually have a department that repackages it, cleans it up, and sells it again. And that's legal.
All right.
So, on the other hand, that shop has been there many years. And they return it with a smile. So maybe they have to throw stuff out, but they are selling trust.
Selling trust, yeah.
And they are not abusing your time.
Yeah.
So if it's, they almost never say no. I mean, if you're dirty and you wore it, that's not good. But I didn't like it. Okay, here's mine.
Okay. Right.
And they put it in a cart and just make sure it looks okay. Put a new bag, a new price, red price, sale, sell it again. Wow, that was easy.
Okay. Okay. I think that's all for today's interview. So thanks, Mark from America. Yep. Thank you.
Thank
yeah,
you.
thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.